Thank you, Swamiji, for sharing with us. And we have a number of questions. First, from Tatiana from Brazil. She's asking, how do we love when one is being challenged karmically on all levels, physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
Mind you, the path to God is by no means an easy path. We have ignored God for who knows how many lifetimes. I certainly believe in reincarnation. Without that, I don't see that there could be any hope. It takes a lifetime even to overcome one strong habit. But we have been seeking in the wrong way. And so when we turn to God, He will ask us, do you really mean it? You know, there's a story of St. Teresa of Avila. She went through many tests, and in her old age, she was fording a stream, and it was winter, and the rains were heavy, and her horse lost its footing, and she was swept into the stream. And suddenly she found herself on the opposite bank, and Jesus was standing there, and her own clothing was completely dry, and he looked at her with a smile, and he said, "Don't feel too badly, Teresa. This is how I treat all my friends." And she had a good wit. She said, "Ah, my Lord, that is why you have so few." So remember, I'm not offering you an easy path. What I'm offering you is the only possible path. Nothing else will work. And many people think, well, it's too much, so they go back to something, but that won't work for them. Only one thing will work, and that is when you find that you are a part of God, and your destiny is to merge into Him.
A question here from Giuseppe in New Jersey. Should we be preaching the truth to worldly people attached to ego, or should we keep silent within ourselves?
You have to discriminate. Jesus said, don't throw your pearls before swine. If people are not ready, then it drains your energy to try to talk about these things. So don't talk too freely, but test the water first. And see if people are interested, then give them a little more. But be guarded about what you have to say, because you don't want them making fun of you. That diminishes your own energy. But respect their right to come to truth in their own way, and respect their right to be ignorant. There was one man who, Yogananda, was saying that much in the Bible is mythological. He said, for example, in the Garden of Eden, say the serpent talked to Eve. Well, serpents don't talk, do they? And this very fundamentalist Christian said to him, in those days, serpents could talk. Well, Yogananda wasn't going to argue it, but he took his hat off and he said, I bow to the colossal temple of ignorance that I see before me. So be respectful. Even that bow was respectful. He respected people's right to be as ignorant as they choose. But if they want it, then give it to them.
And Troy in Virginia is asking, what is the secret to establishing a consistent meditation practice? I can't seem to keep it up.
Okay, you brush your teeth every day. Let's say you spend 5 minutes brushing your teeth. Why not brush your soul also? Take a little time to think of spiritual hygiene. It's not that difficult. I'll bargain with you. Take 5 minutes a day. The thing that's beautiful about meditation is that the more you do, the more you find it attractive. It's not a labor. You begin to feel that you're resting in yourself, and this peace that comes, it can change your whole life. The more you can go in the trials and troubles and tribulations of daily life, the more you can reflect on the peace that you felt in your meditation, the happier you'll be. So you will find that 5 minutes, you'll just say, oh, is it already up? Well, let me sit another 5. Before you know it, you'll be sitting 15, and half an hour and an hour. Really, I would say that for a serious seeker, there should be at least an hour and a half given to God. If God were not to think of you for 1 minute, you wouldn't be here. 1 second, you wouldn't be here. Think of him a little bit. He's your only life and the source of everything you are. Give him a chance, that's what I say.
And Kathleen in New York is asking, I've been having some intense spiritual experiences like buzzing and lights. Is this normal, or is there a way to feel it more naturally?
I'd say whatever experience you have, relax into it. And the more relaxed into it you are, the more it will become your own nature. These are very small experiences, in fact, but important. They encourage you to try harder.
And Leslie's asking, what's your perspective on the Gulf oil spill?
Where is Leslie?
You stumped me.
Okay, my perspective on the Gulf oil spill has been conditioned by what I read. I'm not there, I don't really know. But I have to say it could create a huge cataclysm. It has been this sort of thing, can release methane gas into the atmosphere. It can cause widespread destruction. And I must also say that I remember my guru in the church in Hollywood one time saying, "You don't know what a terrible cataclysm is coming." This could be that cataclysm. At any rate, I don't want to feed negativity. There's nothing we can do about it. But I would say, remember, God is a stern, he wields a stern whip sometimes. Man has been forgetting God, and man is certainly going to have to suffer through depression, through international war, and through some cosmic event, either extraterrestrial or this doomsday thing that people talk about of the methane gas escaping into the atmosphere. And in the past, when this has happened, about 95% of life on the planet was destroyed. No joke.
Birch is asking, is it possible to attain Christ consciousness without meeting a yogi in person?
No, you have to have at least one physical contact. My guru told me that. And the thing is that when you have what is known as an avatar who's born into this world, he comes with a particular power. Jesus Christ lived only 33 years, but his power continued. It was not the power of an ordinary saint. Those who were his followers, those who tuned into him, as it says in the Bible, in the Gospel of St. John, to as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God. And that power is what is needed. You can't do it by your own ego. The ego is already infected by the very disease it is trying to overcome. So you need the attunement with somebody who is out of that ego, and with that you can be lifted. Now, a human contact, my guru told me this personally, is needed. But in the case of disciples of Jesus Christ, they were that contact. He was that kind of avatar or divine power which could continue to save people down through many generations, thousands of years. An avatar's duty is to be available to people all over the world. And yet how many people would know him all over the world? So, for example, myself, I'm a disciple of such a great master. I have his power to work with. It's not my power. But I have to say that the more I feel his presence, the more blissful I feel, and the more other people who are with me feel that bliss. These are serious things. Don't just think that any priest can give it to you, but one who is truly, completely dedicated to finding God, and to finding God through a particular channel, the more that will be possible.
And Ken is asking, what was it like when Master touched your heart on that first occasion?
You know, the odd thing was, when I met my guru, and he accepted me as a disciple, he put his hand over my heart and it vibrated for 2 whole minutes. I didn't feel anything. But from that moment, my life was changed, my consciousness was changed. And it was a power I wasn't yet ready to feel. But in all honesty, I have to say I didn't feel it right then. But everything changed from then on. So that blessing was certainly there. And many times in his presence after that, I would feel just overwhelmed with bliss or with love. It was the most wonderful experience of my life, living with him and being his disciple.
Arati in California is asking, would you speak about the need to stand up and be counted?
I think that it's a good thing to stand up and be counted. I think she's quoting from a book of mine, Renunciation in the New Age. And I think that when we believe something, we shouldn't hide it from people. I think that in this age where everybody is spouting all sorts of negative philosophy and so on, we don't have to talk about it, but we have to let it be known this is how we feel. We can't, if people talk about how they went out and got drunk last night, we can't try to smile with them just to be a hail fellow, well met. I would say don't respond. To be counted doesn't necessarily mean you have to get up on a podium and start talking, but you have to be firm to your commitments, firm to your loyalties. And Yogananda often said, loyalty is the first law of God.
Usha in Portland is asking, would you please talk about the relationship between Dwapara Yuga and education for life?
I wrote a book, it's called Education for Life, and it tries to encapsulate Yogananda's teachings on education. The important thing is to prepare children not just to grow up to get a good job and make money, but to make them whole human beings. In fact, we have schools all over the world. I don't know how many, but a number in every country. And those schools are teaching this system, education for life. I know that a friend of mine, her father from Spain, just discovered it the other day, and he's absolutely excited about it. Because if children can learn to be happy as human beings, isn't that much more important than teaching them all the tricks for making a lot of money? So this education for life helps people to understand, for example, and I can't give the whole thing right now, but for example, you have certain tools that you're born with. You need to hone those tools. The first 6 years of your life are pretty much spent in trying to get your body under control. The next 6 years are pretty much spent learning to get your emotions under control, and that's when it's a very good time to teach children stories of uplifting people, stories that will inspire them, stories that will try to make them better. And these are important things. Children's stories tend all too often to play down to their silliness. I wrote a book recently called The Time Tunnel, in which people go through this tunnel and suddenly find themselves in a position where they can go forward and backward in time and learn from history and learn from the future how they can become better people. All of education should train you to become a more complete human being. And the wonderful proof of our system is this, that in competition, in competitive exams between that are taken on a nationwide level, our children come out in the top 5 percentile. When they leave our school for various reasons, like their parents moving away or whatever it may be, growing too old for the system, they always become outstanding students. So really, I do urge all of you to look into this. And Usha, by the way, is a member of our community in Portland, Oregon. And she has done wonderful work in helping to promote this system, and she's written books on the subject herself. So thank you, Usha.
And Aditya and Maya in Atlanta are asking, are we different from mind? Is soul a different entity from mind?
From what? Mind?
From mind.
The mind is that part of the brain. Well, actually, the consciousness in man is divided into 4 segments: mon, buddhi, ahankar, chitta. Mind, in that sense, is that aspect of the mind of consciousness which merely receives impressions. You could put it this way: you have a mirror. Reflected in the mirror is a horse. The mind will see that it's a horse, but it won't know that it's a horse. Then comes buddhi, which is the intellect, and it's centered here, between the eyebrows. And buddhi says, oh, that's a horse. Then ahankar comes in. Ahankar is the ego. And the ego says, oh, that's my horse. Then feeling comes in, which is of the heart. The buddhi is centered here. Ahankar, of ego, is centered in the medulla oblongata. That's why when people are proud, they sort of look down their noses at others. And the heart feeling is the chitta. And when the chitta says, oh, how happy I am to see my horse, that's when delusion begins. So consciousness beyond mind is superconsciousness. It doesn't break things up the way the intellect does. The consciousness or superconsciousness perceives everything as one. It's a very interesting concept to understand that, well, think of this. God is, according to Jesus Christ, like a child. How could a child have produced the complexity that we see around us in this universe? It's not possible. I remember one time I was out of the desert, and I used to be much too intellectual, and my guru wanted to cure me of this. And one time in his kitchen, he had everybody turn the lights out, and then he wrestled some paper bag and pulled out something, and bzz, 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 and there were these little sparks coming out of a toy pistol. And he turned the light back on, and he looked at me and he said, what do you think? And I said, well, it's fine, sir. I was trying to put together this idea of this wise sage playing with a toy pistol. Then he pulled out another one and shot it, and that projectile went up and came down to the floor as a parachute. We all solemnly watched this ascending parachute. And he looked at me, he said, suffer little children to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of God. And this, it's just amazing to think that God, in his huge complexity, could have the nature of a child. And yet he does. He doesn't, he's not childish. You can't hurt his feelings, but you can approach him as your own. There's no complexity. You don't have to address these long-winded, pompous prayers to him. Just love him as he is. He likes that. I remember one time many times I've simply told God, you have to do this for me. And people would say that's not respectful. He's my own. Why shouldn't I talk to him that way? If you do, you'll find that he's on your side always.
Kate from Florida is asking, what book would you most recommend for the beginning student after autobiography?
I would say The Essence of the Bhagavad Gita. I wrote that book in attunement with him. And I remembered you'd have to call it a miracle, because I wrote it in 2 months, less than 2 months. And it was the recollection of his commentaries on the Gita. Read that book, it'll change your life.
Deborah in Idaho is asking, talk about the importance of forgiveness, not just from the point of view of the one who is being forgiven, but more importantly, the one who is doing the forgiving.
I had a dream many years ago in which I had a very close friend, but he took advantage of my friendship for him and treated me like dirt. And as I was approaching death in that lifetime, I had developed a deep bitterness. And suddenly I realized that if I died with that bitterness, I would be reborn in a position where I had to treat him the way he had treated me. And maybe he then would, in another life, treat me the same way. And so it would go on. And I thought, I forgive him now. Why waste all that time? I remember what a great release it was in my own heart. Forgiveness will be release for yourself. Don't hold grudges. It's not worth it.
We have time for one last question, Swamiji, from Seattle. We're told it's time to be courageous spiritually. In what way?
It takes a lot of courage to stand up for your ideals. It takes a lot of courage to say, this is what I'm doing, and whatever you do is your business. But I am seeking truth, I am seeking God. Everybody will be against you, you will be persecuted. But if you stand by what you believe, they will come your way, and if they don't, nonetheless, you have to be a man of courage or a woman of courage if you are to know your own self. The temptation is to let other people rule your ideas, rule your sentiments, rule your beliefs. Don't let it happen. Courage doesn't mean necessarily going in with a sword. It means remaining firm. I remember one time when I was about 13 years old, I only weighed 107 pounds. And there was a big boy who lived in the room right next to mine. He was 15. I weighed 107, he weighed 230. And I had an English accent at that time because I'd been brought up in Europe and in England. And I guess he decided that my accent was an insult to the American flag. Whatever it was, he really decided to get it in for me. And I remember at lunchtime he was trying to goad me, and I refused to respond. And finally he said, "Boy, I'm gonna get you." And he came up to my room. We didn't have locks on our doors. I had a dresser pushed against it, but that was useless. He came in and began to beat me up. There was just nothing I could do about it. And he said, "I'm gonna throw you out the window, I'm gonna throw you out the window." And the ground was 3 stories down. And I just took it. There was nothing I could do. And somebody later said, "Why didn't you cry for help?" I said, "Because I wasn't afraid. Whatever happens, let it happen. Whatever comes of itself, let it come. Be always calm in yourself. Don't react. Nishkam karma. Don't have desire for the fruits of your actions. The more you can just remain calm and not react to the world and to the way other people treat you, the more you will have that kind of courage which it takes to walk unscathed through the battlefield of life."
Thank you to all of our donors for making it possible to share these videos and keep this channel ad-free. If you feel inspired to donate, visit ananda.org/give.